This is not a drill. Meghan Markle is now in full preparation for her divorce from Prince Harry. I've got the answer.
Everything is fine. That's the sentence everyone keeps repeating. It's the polite shield, the rehearsed answer, the phrase dropped whenever Prince Harry appears alone, without Meghan, without his ring, without any real explanation beyond those familiar, carefully polished reasons. Everything is fine. But when something truly is fine, people don't have to keep saying it. And in just the past few weeks, the cracks have become impossible to ignore. Separate schedules, shared photos quietly disappearing, old symbols resurfacing while others vanish. Piece by piece, the picture has shifted so much that pretending nothing is happening now feels louder than admitting something is wrong. This is no longer just a story about two people drifting apart. Because what makes the situation unsettling isn't the distance, it's the precision. The silence is synchronized. The absences are consistent. The strategy feels intentional. And that's why those who've watched the royal world for years aren't just asking if Harry and Meghan are heading for divorce. They're asking why the silence feels heavier than any breakup announcement ever could. What is being protected? What is being controlled? And why does it feel like the truth carries a price far greater than separation itself? London, September, light rain falling, that familiar cold seeping through coats and collars. Outside the Well Child Awards, cameras line the red carpet the way they always do. This is Harry's ground, one of the few roles he carried with him after stepping away from royal life. Neutral territory, purpose-driven, predictable. But the moment he steps out of the car, something feels off. He's alone, no Meghan at his side, no synchronized movement, no shared glance. The empty space beside him is so obvious it almost hurts to look at. He smiles, he shakes hands, he moves exactly where he's meant to. But absence has its own voice, and that night it spoke loudly. The question comes fast, almost reflexively. Where is Meghan? The answer is delivered just as smoothly, just as cleanly. She's busy in California, no emotion, no elaboration, no warmth. A sentence clearly prepared in advance, trimmed of anything that might invite follow-up. On paper, it's reasonable. In reality, it feels too neat. Well Child isn't just another appearance. It's one of the few events where Meghan's presence once mattered deeply for the image. She didn't come for obligation. She came because it reinforced the story. This time, the story was missing half its cast. And then the cameras catch it. Harry's left hand, bare. No wedding ring, no announcement, no dramatic gesture, just an absence magnified frame by frame in editing rooms across the world. In everyday life, rings come off for 100 harmless reasons. But this isn't everyday life. In this world, nothing is accidental. Symbols don't disappear unless someone wants them gone. Harry carries on speaking about children, responsibility, familiar values. He never mentions his wife. He never references family. Everything sounds right, and that's exactly why it feels wrong. When the event ends, he leaves quickly. No lingering, no casual moments. And the silence that follows feels louder than applause. From the outside, the official explanations still sound perfectly reasonable. Busy schedules, different time zones, separate commitments. These are the kinds of answers designed to shut down curiosity, and usually they work. But Harry and Meghan were never just another couple balancing work. They built an entire brand on being united against the world. Every appearance, every image, every story reinforced us. So when you step back and look at this year as a whole, it's clear this isn't just about being busy. It's about separation done quietly, carefully, almost delicately. Harry continues on a familiar path. Conferences, charity work, speeches that echo the language of responsibility and long-term impact. He looks comfortable in it, almost grounded. The kind of tone that feels closer to his old world than the one he once rejected. And in photo after photo, he stands alone. Meghan's absence is always explained, always justified. She's with the children, she's focused on her projects, logical, sensible, but incomplete. Then Aspen happens. Snow polo, friends, laughter. Images spread quickly. Harry looks relaxed, surrounded by familiar faces like Nacho Figueras. Meghan isn't there. She's in Montecito with the children. Her response? A light social media interaction, just enough to avoid questions, not enough to feel like togetherness. Even Invictus, once their shared stage, now feels different. She leaves early, he stays behind. Duty and presence split cleanly down the middle. Meanwhile, Meghan's world operates on an entirely different frequency: lifestyle branding. Carefully curated interviews, organic jams, soft focus images of a polished Montecito life. Her brand expands steadily, confidently. Netflix projects move forward. Media coverage frames her as independent, modern, in control. And when she speaks, Harry is rarely mentioned. Not dismissed, just absent. Two people moving forward, but not in the same direction. If this were simply a smart branding strategy, diversification to avoid fatigue, you'd still expect the bare minimum. A shared photo, a casual mention, something to anchor the idea of unity. But that's what's missing. And when something disappears this consistently, it stops being coincidence. It becomes policy. Dig deeper into the Archwell Foundation once the heart of their shared mission, and the discomfort grows. On paper, everything still looks joint. Announcements, projects, films. But behind the scenes, the separation is surgical. Harry handles legacy-driven initiatives. Invictus. Events tied to service. Meghan leads lifestyle content, solo, warmly lit, intimate, personal, no behind-the-scenes moments together, no shared brainstorming, no casual family clips. Where once there was us, now there is him and her, operating in parallel lanes that never intersect. And this raises a question that won't go away. If this is just image management, why erase family from the frame entirely? Archwell once thrived on family symbolism. Now, fundraising, appearances, even promotional material feels split. Harry represents duty. Meghan represents lifestyle. The Sussex family story, once front and center, has quietly vanished. That doesn't feel like branding. It feels like preparation. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If Harry is preparing to leave, this isn't freedom. It's risk. Massive risk. Divorce doesn't simplify his life. It complicates everything. Especially the one thing that matters most: the children. In the cold reality of law, emotion doesn't decide outcomes. Environment does. Stability does. And right now, that balance tilts sharply in Meghan's favor. California, schools, daily routines, an established life, independent income, a friendly media ecosystem. On paper, she represents continuity. Harry, despite his name, represents movement. Travel, symbolism, moral arguments that sound powerful in headlines but weaken in courtrooms. Financially, the gap widens. Meghan's ventures generate tangible income. Lifestyle sells, entertainment sells. Harry's projects build image, not balance sheets. Archwell's entanglements make any separation legally messy, but when it comes to children, the equation is brutally simple. Courts value stability, and stability lives where the children already are. So why would Harry walk into this storm willingly? Why accept a path that threatens his access, his leverage, his public image? Because there's only one reason a man risks everything he has. And it isn't his marriage, it's his children. Listen carefully to how Harry speaks now. The language has shifted. He talks about roots, legacy, his mother, Diana. These aren't random references, they're signals. When he links his children to Diana's story, he's doing more than reminiscing. He's building a moral bridge. Diana's son, Diana's grandchildren, a narrative the royal family and the British public instinctively respond to. The palace notices. Quiet gestures follow. Mentions of wanting to see the grandchildren. Private communication. Doors not slammed shut. No grand announcements, just subtle openings. Because in royal logic, children soften everything. They create neutral ground where past conflicts can be quietly set aside. For Harry, the children are the key. They're the reason. They're the only path back that doesn't require apologies or explanations. A father wanting his children to know where they come from. That story writes itself. For Meghan, the picture looks very different. In California, the children are protected, controlled, shielded shielded from the world she once found hostile. They are part of a carefully built environment where she holds the rules, the law, the narrative. Opening that gate, even slightly, risks losing control. And once that control is gone, it never fully returns. So here they stand. Two parents, two strategies. One sees legacy. The other sees protection. And between them are two children who have quietly become the most powerful pieces on the board. This is no longer about love or even marriage. It's about who decides the future. And that's why the silence feels so deliberate. Lawyers don't enter stories like this by accident. They appear when interests need preserving. Rumors of legal preparation don't come from nowhere. Denials don't erase strategy. They often hide it. Harry's image is shifting. Calmer, more rooted, less defiant. Symbols reappear. Diana's watch. The wedding ring disappears. Words change. Absence speaks. British media responds. The tone softens. The rebel narrative fades. A new one takes its place. And when a man begins shaping how he's seen tomorrow, the real question isn't who he's becoming. It's who is no longer standing beside him. No one has confirmed anything. No one has admitted anything. But silence, when sustained this carefully, stops being neutral. It becomes a message, a tactic, a declaration without words. If and when the announcement comes, it won't be explosive. It will be cold, polite, perfectly phrased. Focus on individual paths, mutual respect, children first. And by the time the world reads it, the decision will have already been made. Because this story isn't unfolding loudly, it's unfolding quietly. And in this world, that's when the biggest changes are already underway. And that quiet unfolding is exactly what makes this moment feel so unsettling. Because nothing about this feels impulsive anymore. It feels measured, timed, as if every public step is taken with one eye on the present and the other firmly locked on what comes next. When people expect chaos, Harry offers calm. When gossip demands reaction, he gives restraint. And restraint in this world is rarely accidental. Watch how carefully he avoids emotional language now. No defensiveness, no fire, no righteous anger like before. Instead, he positions himself as steady, reflective, almost removed. A man who has already accepted something privately and is simply waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. That's not how someone behaves when they're trying to save a marriage. That's how someone behaves when they're preparing for a transition they know can't be stopped. What's striking is how little effort is being made to correct the narrative. In the past, even small rumors were countered quickly, sometimes aggressively. Statements would appear, sources would rush to clarify. This time, the stories are allowed to breathe, allowed to circulate, almost as if letting them settle prepares the ground so the eventual truth won't feel shocking, just inevitable. And Meghan's silence mirrors his in an entirely different way. She doesn't chase him publicly. She doesn't post sentimental throwbacks. She doesn't try to remind any one of us. Instead, she leans into self-contained warmth. Children just off camera. Home-centered imagery. Independence framed as strength, not loss. It's a silence that doesn't plead. It protects. It says, whatever happens, I'm fine where I am. That's why this doesn't look like two people fighting. It looks like two people disengaging with intention. No explosions, no accusations, just parallel lives slowly pulling apart until the distance becomes normal. And when distance becomes normal, separation stops feeling dramatic. It starts feeling logical. Behind all of this, the children remain the unspoken center. Every move, every pause, every symbol points back to them. Harry's legacy language, Meghan's stability narrative, two competing versions of what best looks like. And neither side is willing to surrender that ground easily. So when people ask why this silence feels heavier than divorce, the answer is simple. Divorce would be an ending. Silence is a process. It stretches time. It reshapes perception. It lets each side quietly build the version of themselves they'll need when the next chapter officially begins. And by the time words finally arrive, if they ever do, they may feel almost unnecessary because the story is already being told just without dialogue, through absence, through symbols, through choices made quietly but consistently. This isn't about whether love faded or promises broke. It's about power, control, and the future being negotiated long before anyone signs a paper. And that's why even now, with no announcement, no confirmation, no dramatic reveal, it already feels like something has ended. Not loudly, not publicly, but decisively, but decisively, but decisively, but decisively.